Europe in the 60s, prosperous and industrious, with ghosts of the war years dispelled, struggles for recovery almost a forgotten experience. Post-war resurgence, a modern miracle of industry and ingenuity. Bustling and busy, Europe today, rich in old world heritage, but attuned to the tempo of today. Castles on the Rhine look down on the commerce of a modern Europe, linking the vibrant present to the picturesque past. Europe today, one generation away from a war all men and all nations would like to forget. 25 years ago, this was the picture. But the war is over and the troops depart. Hopefully, hastily, the nations demobilize, all except the Soviet Union. And now, in humanitarian urgency, the Marshall Plan is born to rebuild a war-shattered continent. It's created without Soviet participation. Hopes for peace pinned to the newly established United Nations receive a setback as the Security Council is undermined by the Soviet Union's abuse of the veto, and the Red Army takes over the Baltic countries, virtually all of Eastern Europe. Nation after nation vanishes behind the Iron Curtain as minority communist parties, with strong Soviet support, seize power and control in Hungary, Romania, Poland, and Czechoslovakia. Giving active aid to communist rebels in the Greek Civil War, the Soviet Union has also placed pressure on Turkey for territorial concessions. Pressure resisted and overcome with United States assistance. And in June 1948, seeking to force Western powers to abandon Berlin, the Soviets blockade the city. Transportation comes to a standstill. But beleaguered Berlin is supplied by air as an Allied armada breaks the blockade. But the Soviet Union still threatens a disarmed Europe with more than 200 ready divisions. Aware of the danger, the United Kingdom, France, Belgium, Luxembourg, and the Netherlands come together in the Treaty of Brussels. Then on April 4th, 1949, the United States joins with Brussels Treaty nations and with Canada, Norway, Portugal, Italy, Iceland, Denmark, and later West Germany, Greece, and Turkey to become Allied defense partners in the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO. With the formation of NATO, United States forces returned to Europe because the security of the free Western world and the United States was plainly indivisible. Increased financial support came with United States partnership too. Over $100 billion to help Western nations reconstruct shattered economies and defenses, as Allied nations joined forces to build a shield against aggression, forging a sword of retaliation. In concert with Allied NATO nations, securing free world borders that extend across continental Europe and along the Mediterranean, the US European Command finds direction at Stuttgart, Germany. United States European Command, US EUCOM, the Center for the Coordination of United States military forces, nuclear and conventional, with Allied plans in Europe. Brussels, Belgium. Near Brussels, Supreme Headquarters, Allied Powers Europe, SHAPE, has been newly established. EUCOM's Commander-in-Chief serves also as NATO's Supreme Allied Commander in Europe. Picturesque Heidelberg. West Germany's famed storybook town is now headquarters for U.S. Army Europe and EUCOM's main striking force, the U.S. 7th Army, the backbone of U.S. ground forces committed to NATO. Persuasive power for peace. All of EUCOM's ready units in Europe maintain a peak of combat effectiveness, constantly sharpening their edge. At Grafenwehr, Hohenfels, Wildflecken. And EUCOM is mobile, with transport aircraft delivering troops and armament to any trouble spot. Deployed in depth through Central Europe, U.S. Army and Allied troops maintain constant border surveillance. Along the line of communist barbed wire, they guard a frontier, manned and mined for 1,000 miles to keep an imprisoned people in. The western section of Berlin, industrious and prosperous. But there's the wall, separating a city and a world. And over there, beyond the wall, past Checkpoint Charlie, there's the greatest concentration of communist troops and armament outside the Soviet Union. The American, British, and French garrisons in Berlin represent Allied determination to maintain Berlin's freedom. Vicenza, Italy. Headquartered at Vicenza, U.S. Army elements are committed to the Southern European Task Force. From bases in Italy, Army aircraft provide troop lift capability, providing support for this Italian-American missile command. Supply lines extending across Europe support EUCOM's frontline combat forces. London. Here in London, there's another vital EUCOM link. Headquarters, United States Navy Forces, Europe. Directing defense plans and operations in the Mediterranean, Baltic, and Black Seas, with powerful forces earmarked for NATO in event of war. Operating from Mediterranean ports, the U.S. 6th Fleet, with its nuclear carrier strike force, provides a deterrent power for peace in these waters. Constantly embarked, Marine Corps forces stand ready whenever and wherever circumstances might require. Wiesbaden, Germany. In Wiesbaden, headquarters United States Air Forces, Europe. Ever watchful along Soviet and satellite frontiers that sweep in a great arc across nearly a quarter of the Earth's surface. Combat squadrons of tactical and defense fighters are deployed in bases throughout Europe. Reconnaissance planes streak across European skies, observing and reporting any possible enemy threat. Backing this poised power The U.S. military assistance program has helped allies maintain effectively balanced defense teams. With men, money, specialists, and equipment, we've helped the free people of Western Europe build their own military deterrent forces. With over half of America's budget devoted to the cost of defense and foreign aid, the United States today lends support to national progress and security in many free nations around the globe. And when disaster strikes, American forces are ready to assist in relief and rescue. Floods in Morocco, an earthquake in Iran. American rescue teams respond. U.S. servicemen and their families are members of the European community, making lasting friendships. Join in holiday celebrations and participate in community projects, enjoying every minute of it. But vigilance is the story. This plane is ours. It could be theirs. This watchful aircraft warning complex focuses on communist East Germany, on Czechoslovakia, keeping an eye on the sky, on air action over there that could erupt at any given moment into aggressive attack over here. The threat is always there, but the deterrent is here, poised and ready. The fate of free Europe could be decided in a few seconds. Supersonic aircraft could be across Europe in a matter of minutes. But for the fact that aggressor nations know that our reaction would be instantaneous and explosive. With full awareness of our strike-back capability, any aggressor is less likely to invite retaliation. Still, world peace could be shattered at any moment, today or tomorrow. Hopefully never. But should military aggression be launched against Western Europe, the poised power of a free Europe would respond. Part of that power, the U.S. defense team would enact in reality their carefully drilled roles. Confident belief in the future of a growing and dynamic Europe, EUCOM stands ready with NATO allies to maintain the freedom of Western Europe against aggression. This is a story of constant vigil, of determination, of maximum readiness, readiness at sea, on the ground, and in the air. This is US Eucom, the United States European Command.
Unified.